I call this fly the simple sculpin because it's easy to tie and it's tied with relatively few materials. The hook is a number 4 1XL shank O'Shaughnessy style hook. For weight, I use 4mm brass eyes in gold plate. And for the body, I use a round rope style gift wrap ribbon. I do this so that I can add bulk to the hook shank and simulate the belly of a sculpin minnow. Of course, most of the fly is made up of an eyelash yarn called Cameo Bulky. This material is available at Hobby Lobby stores for about $7 a skein, which will give you enough material to tie tons of these flies. The important thing to notice about Cameo Bulky is that it's actually made up of 2 strands of eyelash yarn that are combined to form one. When you take them apart, you'll see that the one strand, the top strand in this shot, is a little denser and made up of a fuzzier fiber. The lower strand in this shot is actually the other type, which is longer, more flowing, and a little more reflective. It's got some shine to it. The fly is finished off with a little bit of flash. It can be either some finely shredded angel hair tinsel, or you can throw in a little bit of crystal flash to give it a scale pattern. Working with eyelash yarn is a lot like working with a rabbit fur zonker strip. The rabbit fur has a natural lay or nap. It all goes in the direction that it was growing on the skin of the rabbit. In a similar way, the core of the eyelash yarn has the fibers woven in, and they all come off in one direction. It's important to keep this in mind as you're tying with this material. To form a tail out of eyelash yarn, you've got to seal the ends of the yarn. To do that, what I'll do is I'll separate out the fibers like this and kind of hold it between my fingers. Take a lighter and burn it apart, melt the ends down just like you would with a piece of rope. That way the braid that holds in all those fibers is sealed in place and nothing will come out now. For the tail of this fly, I'm actually going to use 1 strand of the denser, fuzzier material and 2 strands of the shinier material. So I need to separate out a piece of the shinier material here and burn that apart, like so. And then I'm going to add this back in to the piece that I just burned, making sure that the material is actually, it has one piece of the denser, fuzzier stuff in the middle and the shinier, looser stuff on either side. It'll look like this when you're done, and that will become the tail for the minnow, for the sculpin. To tie the simple sculpin, we start with some 3/0 thread in about the same color as the yarn that we'll use. You want to start your thread all the way back at the end of the shank, maybe even go a little bit into the bend. That's not a problem on this fly. The shank is really just long enough to get all the parts in there that we need. We're going to take those 3 strands of eyelash yarn that we just prepared with the burned ends, and we're going to separate the material out so that we leave just a little bit in the back hanging on as a tail, and just lash down those 3 cores of the yarn. All the material you see kind of falls under the shank of the hook, or actually into the gape of the hook. This is done on purpose because this will almost look like a Matuka style zonker strip fly at the end. We're going to take these pieces here, fold them back, and kind of get them out of the way so that we've got 3 shorter strands here hanging from the tail, 3 longer strands hanging underneath that will later be pulled forward to form a wing. Using our braided gift wrap ribbon in gold, I lash that down and I try to kind of judge about where the head of my fly will be. I want to leave about 1/3 of the shank clear up front to wrap a head. So wherever my braid stops, my ribbon stops for the belly, is where I will start the wrapped yarn for the head. Notice I lashed down the whole section of braided ribbon, tinsel ribbon, so that it'll build up a little bulk on the shank of the hook when I wrap over it. Again, this part is the body of the fly. It covers the shank of the hook. We only do the rear third, and on the completed fly it really will hardly be visible, but I do think that as the water flows around and through these fibers and the fibers move and twitch, the fish do see some of the shine from this metallic ribbon come through. Okay. Here you can see I've cut off the braided ribbon. I'm just going to lash that down a little bit to make sure it stays in place. Then I'm going to take these 3 strands that I left hanging underneath the hook into the gape and make them so that I'm going to orient them so that the bulkier strand in the middle, that fuzzy strand, is right in the middle, and it's flanked on either side by the longer, shinier fibers. I want to make sure that these fibers stand out on the inside of the gap of the hook. They're going to form a wing, sort of like a Matuka style wing on top of the body. Notice I'm holding these fibers down, I'm pinching them down well in front of the tie-in point, just to tie in as much of that material as I can on top. 1, 2 wraps and pull. Go around a bunch of times, make sure that doesn't come out. And now we've got almost like a Matuka style streamer with a little bit of space in the front for wrapping in a head. Before we put the head in there, I'm going to wrap into the body just a little bit. We need to give it weight. So we'll take our brass eye, place that roughly in the middle. I want to leave a little bit of space in front of the eyes, so there's room for a wrap of, at least one wrap of the yarn when we finish the head. The neat thing about this yarn, when we actually go to wrap a head, is that those fuzzier fibers will kind of stand up the other strand of fibers. It holds the longer, shinier fibers out, and to my mind it gives it some bulk. It makes a fatter, kind of chubbier minnow style head that is common in sculpin minnows and other killifish on the coast. And the longer fibers, I'm going to cheat a little bit and just shove those eyes back a little bit. Make sure they stay. The longer fibers will flow down the side and sort of form kind of a skirt all the way around the head that ends up looking sort of like the pectoral fins of a minnow, like a sculpin. Now with this material, what I'll do is I'll separate it out again, and I'm going to tie it in with the core facing out. Just 2 quick wraps. Let's see if I can't get that. There's 1, 2, and pull. Right in the same spot. Wrap it in nice and tight so it doesn't come undone. Clip off the excess. And part of the trick of getting bulk out of this type of material, once you're wrapping it, is to stroke the fibers back with each turn and try to almost overwrap each previous turn a tiny bit each time you move forward. That way you can pack a lot of the fiber that comes off of this eyelash yarn in there. And you can see how that fuzzy stuff actually helps to stand the whole thing out. It almost forms sort of almost like a woolhead minnow, woolhead sculpin style head. Once you reach the eyes, you're going to crisscross around them. Make sure you pull those fibers to the outside. Keep just the core touching the metal if you can. Try not to trap too many fibers. There's not a whole lot of space in front of the eyes, but if you keep the yarn nice and tight and stroke those fibers back, you can get at least one good turn of yarn in there, some more fiber just in front of the eyes. Tie that off with 2 wraps behind the yarn just to hold it in place, and then pull all that fiber off the eye of the hook. I'm going to use these scissors just to shove that stuff back, clear out the eye, and wrap a small head, just enough to hold everything in place. Snip off the excess. Here we go. Stroke back all the fibers. Wrap a small head back here and whip finish, and that's it. When he first saw this fly, my fishing buddy and second guide in my guide service, Adrian, dubbed it the mess fly. And I can see where he would think that. It does sort of look like just a great big lump of yarn. But if I pull this fiber forward from around the head, you can see that the belly is definitely in there. All that gold flash, I think, shines through. When you stroke the fibers back, though, and kind of separate them out to show the gold eye there, you can see where that fat head does kind of give it the silhouette of a bottom-dwelling sculpin minnow. In the water, this pulses and twitches, and the materials continuously flow, emitting vibrations that call the fish in. I forgot the accent flash down the side. If you wanted to put in some gold angel hair or crystal flash, you just put a couple of strands down either side of the fly. In any case, the first day we took these out, we were fishing our 5 weights up on the Saluda. The first fish that hit it for me was about a 3-pound largemouth bass. I probably caught a half a dozen nice striped bass on during the trip, and by the time the day was over, we were only out there for a couple of hours. We had each caught a rainbow trout over 16 inches. It's proven itself time and again to be a killer pattern. Tied in green, I've caught smallmouth on it, and I'm really looking forward to fishing it again this coming season. In any case, I hope you get a chance to try it out, and good luck with it. I'd love to hear some comments about it, and please let me know. Share any stories you might have if you catch some fish on it. Thanks for watching, and good luck. Hope you enjoy this pattern.